Hello there, my lovely lovelies, and welcome to attaQ. Now, here's a quick breakdown of what I'm actually dealing with. We've got a bricked iPad leading to an iPad replacement, leading to lost apps and work. And then I want to finish off by talking about what could possibly be done in order to prevent this and some other stuff. But yeah, I'm sure that there are people watching this now who will recognize some of the stuff I'll be talking about here. And if you've had this happen to you, then please share your story down below in the comment section. For the second time now, I've had to go to Apple to get my iPad Pro M2 switched out. The first time it was a broken USB-C port. The second time, which was as recent as just 3 to 4 weeks ago, it was an iOS update that bricked the iPad. Not a big one like going from 16 to 17 or 18 to 26. No, just a smaller update. So I basically attached the charger, accepted the update, and when the iPad rebooted, I was met with this. It is a still picture, but even if it was a video, it would have looked the same. Just an Apple logo with a frozen progress bar. And after 5 hours, I realized something was wrong. There is a way of hard resetting the iPad from a laptop or a desktop computer, but I don't use any desktop or laptop computers. I don't own any. My partner has a MacBook, but it's simply too old now. I don't have any friends close by that could potentially help either, which sounds sadder than it actually is. So I just booked a meeting with the Genius Bar at the Apple Store. Unfortunately, it turned out that a hard reset/restore didn't work at the end of the day. And they just selected to switch out my entire iPad since I was on Apple Care anyway. Now, just to clarify, this is an extended type of Apple Care that I pay for every month. It's not much either, just about like $7 a month, and it's hella worth it because I've had a complete iPad switch 2 times now with no extra chargers. And if you calculate it, an iPad basically cost me $7 for 12 months because it's been a year in between every switch. Well, it's basically $84 to switch out an iPad, which is much cheaper than having to pay $800 or $900, which it would have cost me otherwise. Now, I had to wait a few days, like 4 or 5 days, before I could actually go and get my new iPad and actually switch the old one out. But as soon as I had it at home, I went to do a restore from the iCloud backup. And here we hit a bit of a snag. I have a new fresh iPad and it cost me next to nothing, but I'm not happy. I'm sad. And the reason for that are the apps and the work that I lost. You see, every time something like this happens, there is a potential for apps to be completely lost to you forever, including all of the work you did with those apps. So let's discuss how we're losing apps when we are doing a restore on an iPad or an iPhone, for instance. You see, back in 2017, Apple released iTunes 12.7, and it had a major big change in how it operated regarding iOS backups. You see, they changed it so that now iTunes will no longer back up the actual app IPAs and only store the app data. And just to clarify, iCloud backups never ever backed up IPAs. So when you restore your device with a backup, the apps actually have to be downloaded from the App Store. And here is where it gets dicey because you cannot download apps that no longer exists on the App Store. Ouch. And it's just worse when it's not really our fault. And what do I mean? Well, we've all probably purchased more apps than we need. Just look at the amount of AV3s I currently have installed. That number is quite frankly ridiculous. And this is not all of the AV3s I own. Because we don't really own anything. In any case, I've had to delete several apps from my iPad and other devices over the years due to storage constraints and other reasons. And if I lose access to an app I deleted myself, it kind of feels a bit like it was my own fault, even though it's not really, but yeah, However, it doesn't feel like it was my fault at all when I lose access to stuff I didn't opt in to remove myself. Remember, I just suggest to an iOS update and then disaster struck. I didn't sit there right before it deleting all the apps I was currently using. Well, is there anything I could have done to prevent this? Well, there are a couple of ways. One of them is by storing apps on secondary devices or older devices. And that's what I've been doing for a long time, but it's not a surefire way. The secondary way is to use something like Imazing, and I will dive deeper into both topics later on in the video. At the end of the day, no matter how you choose to back up your stuff, none of this works as an afterthought. You have to do it preemptively, and that might sound painfully obvious to many of you, but yeah, you forget to back up stuff sometimes, and when it's gone, it's gone. And in the case of apps disappearing from the App Store, it's not easy keeping track of what apps are abandoned and what apps aren't. And it's interesting to see people discuss this online. I've seen discussions where users feel like an app has been abandoned if the app hasn't received an update in 3 months. While on the other hand, a lot of us in the iOS music making community have seen an app like Borderlands Granular being released like 13 years ago, and then taking years before it gets a proper update, and then another 6 years, and we know that the developer is still working on that app because they keep showing it on their Instagram. And I mean, apps disappear for other reasons. Apple might remove something because they're breaking terms of service. They're doing something, stealing data or tracking you in ways they shouldn't. And then there are those times when the developers just give up and stop updating their apps because Apple maybe changes something that changes everything in a way so much that they just don't want to deal with it anymore. Or maybe they have different priorities in life, so they shut down their company, they turn off their store page, and they delete all the apps off the App Store. It's impossible to track them all. Why? Because there's so many of them, and we're buying a lot of apps. And it's not like we're getting notified whenever this is happening. I mean, there are some outlets out there that will track bigger companies, and so when they go under, well, we'll hear about it. But for all of the other app developers, most of the app developers on the App Store are just singular people running their own thing, and there's a lot of them. One app is called 3D Timeline. It is what I use to make the timelines for quite a few videos, one of them being the evolution of iOS music making. I have lost access to the app now and all of the work I put into it, and even though I have the app data backed up, there is no app to read it. And the worst part is all of the work that I did with it. You see, there were video projects that I have had planned for years, which I made these timelines for, and now I have to do it all over again. Luckily enough, I have some of the research I made for them backed up in notes. Notes have saved my life so many times. I'm absolutely in love with that app. Now, another app that I lost is called Stripboard Cat, and this is probably an odd one for most of you watching this. It's a really nerdy thing. It's an app that lets you make stripboard electronic circuit designs. It's a very specific thing, and it was the only app like it on the entire App Store. Now, I was using it a lot, and I had quite a few circuits I was working on. These were circuit designs I planned on making into modules for my Eurax system that is always growing, and I only saved a few of them to PDFs, but most of them are now gone, and I might have found a web-based stripboard circuit designer, and I'll now have to do it all over again, and it's hours upon hours of work just lost. Now, there are more nerd apps that I lost, but we're gonna skip over to some music apps. And the first one on the chopping board was Nano Studio 2. See, I knew this was going to happen. I mean, it's something that was kind of in the news for a while back when it got announced that it was about to disappear from the App Store. The dev even made it free, including all in-app purchases, so that anyone could download it. And I actually thought about this as I was setting up a meeting with Genius Bar, but in any case, Nano Studio 2 is gone. Oh no! Now, I also lost access to a suite of AUV3s, many of which I was using a lot, and among these were Jubal Flute. I completely fell in love with the sound of this thing, and I have it in a lot of projects, and now it's gone, and that means that all of the projects that used it are now basically broken. Something essential is missing in those projects, and it makes me feel like shit. By the way, this company had 3 other very popular instrument apps, and they are all gone from the App Store. So I also lost access to Ocarina and Sensual Sax 2. And it's a real shame, because these instruments were the only ones of their kind on the App Store. They all sound amazing, and it's rare to find physically modeled instrument AUV3s that sound as good as these did. Yeah, it's heartbreaking, really. Now, I also lost Boom 808 and 909 Rhythm, all from the same developer. The original version of Ants, OPS, RD4, Croft, the list is long and all of them are now gone, and it's just making me very, very depressed. I didn't just lose these apps, I also lost work. In fact, all of the work I had done for those 8 hours that same day that the iPad bricked, the backup I had on iCloud was basically done on the previous day, so yeah. One thing I will not be discussing here is jailbreaking your device, because there are ways of backing up stuff from your iDevices if you jailbreak them. But I run a clean game. I got Apple Care and it's actually saved my ass a few times, so I'll only be discussing legit ways of backing up ipa-files. And there is only really one way I'm going to be discussing here, and it is Imazing. Now, I want to highlight some really important information about Imazing to you so that you can decide whether you want to jump in or not. First of all, why wasn't I using Imazing earlier? I mean, Imazing has been out since 2014. Well, it is a subscription service, and you pay for an amount of devices and you pay per year, and I hate subscription services because we end up owning nothing and we're drowning in subscription services, and whenever you stop paying for a subscription, you lose complete access. In any case, here I opted in for Imazing simply because the cost of losing apps is higher than whatever I'm paying for the subscription per year. Now, of course, you're going to need a computer in order to run Imazing and also connect your iDevice to it. And as I told you before, I don't own such a thing, but I was able to borrow an older computer. And even though it's old, it turns out that Imazing can actually run on macOS 10.12 and up, and also on Windows 7 and up. Now, another thing you need to know about is that Imazing pretty much demands that you do full-on backups on your devices when you want to manage your library and copy apps and things like that. So you are also going to need a lot of storage to store all of those backups. So if you have a license for Imazing for 3 devices and you're backing all of them up, maybe a phone, maybe 2 iPads, well, depending on how big they are and how much you got stored on them, your backups could end up being hundreds upon hundreds of gigabytes. And then also you have to calculate all of the apps and their sizes too into that now. It's not going to be like an iCloud backup, which doesn't include the IPAs, so you need even more storage. And in my case, I had some problems getting all of that storage together, so I couldn't actually back up everything that I wanted. Lastly, there is another thing that is really, really important. Apple has some pretty heavy app DRM things going on. Basically, they're protected against just copying or cloning apps and moving them between devices that are on different Apple IDs. So if you do want to transfer an app, then you can do that, but the app has to have been purchased on the same Apple ID, and both of the iDevices that you're transferring from and to has to be logged into the same Apple ID. But yeah, it's a nice thing knowing that that can actually be done. In the end, I do recommend Imazing. It feels really good to use, and to actually be able to download and store IPAs and have them available, even if you do one of these resets and one of your apps is grayed out with a little cloud next to the name and you can't download it from the App Store, there is still a backup of it somewhere. Now we're gonna head on over to the final thoughts section, but before that, did you know that I've been doing haQ for 12 years here on YouTube? And after 12 years, I don't even make $100 a month from YouTube. I do put out less videos, but the algorithm has also changed. So it's a combination of multiple things, really. It's not going well, and actually, money-wise, I'm a failure on YouTube. But I do have a Gumroad page, and so if you do want to support me, you can either do it through Patreon or you could just go and get some presets. Now, I did put out a free preset pack for Charles Vestal's JP8000 Super Saw section emulation called New Saw. It's an excellent app. It sounds great, and there is a pack with 60 presets in it for free. All you have to do is to put in a 0 in the purchase field when you buy it, and you're getting an email with instructions on how to download them and also how to install them. There is also a preset pack for those of you who use the OP1 field, not the old OP1, but the OP1 field by Teenage Engineering, the world's most expensive piece of gear, it feels like. But yeah, there's 140 presets in that pack for only $6. That's not much for a big pack of sounds. One way that I've been saving older apps is by locking down my devices when I get a new one. And I've been doing that since I got my first iPhone, which was an iPhone 4S. So you don't do any updates, you make sure you don't mess with what's working, and you don't delete apps. And that way you can keep your app library. But that's not something that everyone can do, because buying these things, even if you buy them used like I've done many times, it's still a lot of money. And it doesn't always work, because sometimes devices will break down on you. That's what happened with my iPhone 4 and also with my iPad Pro from 2018. Both the screen and also the USB-C port broke on it, and now the battery is dead. It was supposed to be the midway device in between my iPad Pro from 2015 and the current M2 that I currently have. But yeah, in any case, I also lost apps and work in between these two devices here too. So yeah, it's no fun. Well, this is why archiving is important. We're losing big chunks of history here, digital history. And I want to start out by saying that, of course, I don't expect things to be around forever. And I do not expect any developer out there charging $2 or $5 or even $100 for an app to be supporting that app for the rest of their lives. That would be completely irrational to expect. But whenever something is getting abandoned, it would be nice if there was a way to archive it. Imazing is one way, but we wouldn't be needing something like Imazing if Apple just gave us back the option of backing up our apps. If you know about any other ways of backing up your IPA files, then please tell us below in the comment section. And if you've been through similar experiences, such as the ones that I've shown here in this video, then please tell us about that. Alright, so go check out Imazing. I'll put a link to it down below. Also, go check out my Gumroad. Go download that free pack for New Saw if you opted in for it. It's a great little JP8000 Super Saw emulation, and I love saying that because I love Super Saw so much. And for those of you who are into the OP1 fields, there's a pack with 140 presets for only $6. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching, and as usual, I wish you a very productive week. Now go finger all of your stuff and have a lot of fun doing it. You, me,